right. Joining us from beautiful Los Angeles, California, the one, the only analyst for your Sacramento Kings, Kayte Christensen. Good morning, Kayte.
Good morning, David. Hi, Jason.
Hi, Kayte.
What is that?
That was a friendly greeting towards me.
It was straight up. Oh, good morning, David. Hi, Jason.
We've had a couple of weeks together while you've been out.
Which
Yep.
if reversed to your point, would be, good morning, Dave. Hi, Jason. I'm so glad you're back. Wow, it's just been so great. Some dig it. I had to be on with just Dave for 2 weeks type of thing, but that didn't happen.
No, yeah. Mm-mm.
Didn't happen.
Wow. All right. Well, this interview's off to a great start. All right, Kayte, let's start with an easy one. What's wrong with this team?
Welcome back.
Oh, yeah. I know that the loss to Miami or not Miami, Chicago
Yes,
rather. Is a
both.
tough one. Yes, both hurt. Yes, is a tough one to swallow. Particularly coming off of the last home game, which of course was the loss to Miami. Yeah, Dave, it's interesting because watching that game as we're, calling it, I was like, wow, they came out and like offensively, I felt like they were playing at a faster pace. They were clicking. There was different things that we were seeing from them. Defensively, I thought that they were being really, really aggressive and doing a great job, and they were scrambling and covering a lot of ground. And I was like, wow, like, coming off that win in Minnesota, and you come back and you're upset about the loss against Miami, and then just, DeMar DeRozan absolutely took over, and Desuna, like Kobe White was fantastic. I mean, you had two guys that really, really went off, and DeMar DeRozan did DeMar things in the fourth quarter, and like there was no answer to that, no stopping it. And frustrating as that can be, it's just like, I don't really know how to answer your question. I saw a lot of great things, and then I saw a collapse.
Yeah, on the collapse, Kayte, look, obviously what you said is spot on. I mean, DeMar DeRozan, sometimes when you've got a gifted player that's hot, you can't stop him. I almost look on the other side because what the Kings still do best is offense, and maybe just a little sharper offense, even while DeMar's doing that.
Yeah.
They end up with maybe a 6-point win. It wouldn't have been the prettiest, but it wouldn't have mattered. What went wrong offensively in that fourth quarter that really also kept them from winning the game?
I thought that Chicago did a great job of, when the Kings got downhill on them, they sent 2-3 guys, and they were just causing nothing was clean anymore. They were causing deflections. They were kind of muddying the waters. Nothing was crisp. And then really you look at the last, we do it all the time as players, in practice, you do last 2 minute, drill. You basically 2 minutes on the clock, they put a score up, and you play live, and you try, like, being crisp and clean and not making mistakes in the last 2 minutes of a game is critical. You practice it, you're drilled with it. Like, that you've been in this situation a million times. You prepare for it. To have 3 turnovers out of the last 4 possessions is just, you can't win a close game that way. And I thought they did a great job not turning the ball over most of the game. I didn't feel like it really impacted. It wasn't an issue throughout the course of the game. It was an issue down the stretch. And again, I have to credit Chicago. I mean, I thought that they did a great job of being physical and taking away, straight line passes and straight line drives. Like, they just made everything really difficult. And because of that, they were able to be on top of every single rotation. They weren't behind. There was no clean looks. There was no clean shots. And so, look, Chicago defensively, like, they're a very, very solid team. And, I actually was like, okay, wow, this is how it, this is how you win games in these situations. It's with your defense, and that's what they did.
Kayte Christensen joining us. Look, in all seriousness, no one's looking to you to have all the answers that none of us have as to what's wrong with this team. But we saw last night, Boston, the best team in the NBA, lose to a Donovan Mitchell-less Cleveland team after being completely throttled in the fourth quarter. So it's not like we know this happens to teams. The problem is that you win in Minnesota without De'Aaron, you come home, you lose to Chicago. You win in LA against the Clippers, a team that had throttled you twice, and then you come home and you lose to a shorthanded Miami team. You blow a record-breaking, literally fourth quarter lead against Phoenix. You lose at home to Detroit. You lose on the road to Portland. You lose at home to Charlotte, and on and on and on. So if we were talking about every team has bad nights, every team has bad stretches, and everybody gets paid in the NBA, I completely get that. The problem is, and you know this is a team acting like a dynasty team, keeping it in third gear during the regular season, and they're a first-round exit after 1 year. Is there any way to point at it in any other way, Kayte, other than mental? Because I don't see a talent issue on this squad. I see a softness issue on this squad.
I would definitely have to agree to a certain extent that there's a massive mental component. I don't know that I agree that they're acting like a dynasty. I'm
just saying that's what dynasty teams do. You're right. I'm just saying you see that. Yeah.
I mean, Dave, I've known you forever. You're one of my best friends. I also know, one of get it right. I also know. Listen here, I want you as my friend to hear this as well. Okay. I don't think they're acting like a dynasty team. I understand your personal attachment to this team, and that physically every single time there's a collapse, something like this happens, that it hurts you in a physical way. So that's okay. Like, you're not the only one. I'm sure there's other fans that feel the same way. But I definitely can break down listen. There has been consistency issues throughout the season. There has, but I'm also going to tell you on a legitimate level, the Western Conference is better than it was a year ago. They haven't faced the same type of adversities last year that they faced this year. And you know what? I'm good with them facing those adversities now. They're in a play-in situation right now. They're not out of the playoff picture right now. You don't know what's going to happen the last 20 games. You want to believe that the things that they're facing now and the painful losses, the adversities are going to be a great lesson when it comes to battling to get into the playoffs. Because I do think there's a high likelihood that they could be in a play-in situation because of how good and how healthy the Western Conference has been this year. And I want to believe that, like a year ago, Miami, that was in a play-in situation, that people talked crap about them the entire year. They weren't meeting expectations, blah, 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 this and that. They were able to make a run in the playoffs, and look how far they got. They got to the finals from a play-in situation. So where it's okay, and I'm not going to begrudge anyone that looks at this team and looks at the inconsistencies and is like scratching their head saying, what the hell is going on here? But I'm going to look at it logically for me. Right. And the inconsistencies suck, but I hope that it actually benefits them in the long run. And that these are the things that they kind of need. Every season takes on a personality of its own. Maybe these are the things that they need to face so that they're actually ready for the playoffs come that time. I don't know, but yes, there's a lot of things that they need to fix before then.
Kayte, kind of along those lines, from your playing background to now observing this team too, what do you think compelled Trey Lyles to kind of get that players meeting? What do you think was behind his thought process on that, maybe that inconsistency you're talking about?
Yeah, I think that 100%, kind of contributed to it. I mean, there's other things as well, right? I think that it's good to check in. 82 games is such a long season, and you start the season out and you're pumped and you're psyched, and then you get to a certain point and you're like, wow, are we still doing this? Like, is it still going? So I think a lot of times you got to kind of recenter, reconnect, kind of assess your goals again, touch base. But for me, I love that Trey called it, first of all, because he is a respected member of this team, and he, given his role as kind of, that guy off the bench who's very critical to their success. We've showed the numbers on our broadcast a lot recently that he has the best, plus minus on this team. And we've showed all of the numbers that it's like, wow, like look at how critical Trey is to the success of this team. And I think a perfect example of that is Minnesota. If you look at the box score and you didn't watch that game, you're like, oh, Trey didn't do much off the bench. He was so important to that win in Minnesota, especially if you look at overtime. And he did it defensively, the way he impacted that game on that side of the ball when he wasn't hitting, shots at the level we've seen him. He's been in a little bit of a slump. So I love that he can bring everybody together and they can sit down. And to me, a lot of the things that they discuss is issues they're having defensively. And to be willing to speak to the coaches and say, hey, this is how you're asking us to cover this. This is how you want us to cover pick and roll in this situation. Can we give you some feedback? And those are the things that you need to have during the season to be able to communicate and fine tune and fix issues. And the coaches listened. The players were open and honest. They came to them after a great meeting, and that's what you're supposed to do. That's the accountability as a leader. And Trey's a great example of that.
And not to be that guy, but we saw results obviously against Minnesota. What a wonderful winning in Minnesota against the number 1 seed in the West without your best player, arguably, in De'Aaron Fox. But then you come back and you blow 2 double-digit leads at home against a below-average team in the NBA, giving up 36 in the fourth quarter. So when you look back and go, well, maybe that player's only meeting lasted a game, is there cause for worry, too, that it didn't necessarily click with them?
No, I don't think there's cause for worry. I thought that they had 3 great quarters against the Bulls. I wish that after the players only meeting that they could win every single game. But that's not going to happen. But that also isn't going to mean that players only meeting wasn't critical and was important and isn't going to still be impactful moving forward. Because sometimes it's about just the connectivity of the guys after a loss like that. Be like, okay, you know what? We just talked about this. We're good. Just refocus, get back to it, move on, go to the next, instead of, oh, here we go again. Great. Like it can collectively become a mental issue when guys don't feel like they can talk or they haven't talked. And then it just kind of piles on throughout the course of the season. So no, I don't think that it goes away after this. I think it's still going to be impactful.
Kayte, they're all important here really at the end, and coming off of the performance against Chicago, one that they were angered by, one that got away from them. It's the Lakers, who they've matched up well with, played well this year, but they're hot on their heels. Feels like this one's pretty big tonight in LA. What will be some of the keys for you when you're watching this one?
Yeah, I checked the injury report this morning. I would be shocked if LeBron and AD did not play. I think LeBron is questionable, but if history kind of has taught us, he's available more times than not. I actually think that the matchup between Domantas Sabonis and Anthony Davis has been heavily in Domas's favor, for the entirety of his career. I mean, he's never lost a game to Anthony Davis. And by the way, people listening, don't freak out. Oh my God, the announcer jinx. I don't believe
we already said it. It's okay.
Yeah. No, it's like, whatever. It's just like it traditionally has been a matchup that favors Domantas Sabonis, and he executes well against him. He's had his number for whatever reason. But listen, the Lakers are also, this is a team that has a lot of external pressure on them. They've been kind of in this situation all year, in the play-in conversation. They want to get up into the top 6. Is that going to happen? I highly doubt it because of how brutal the Western Conference is. So they look at this game as how critical it is to, seeding and who they're probably going to be matched up with in the first round, all of those, or the play-in round, all of those things. And so I think for the Kings, it's about put Chicago behind you, refocus. You need to come out with the same type of physicality that you played with defensively, the same pace and presence and connectivity that you played with for the first 3 quarters against Chicago. You need to carry that over. So you want to focus at this point on the things that you did really well. Learn from the things that you didn't do well, but continue to make sure you're growing on the things that you did well. And that's what I want to see against the Lakers, because, obviously this is a really I feel like the last 2.5, 3 months of the season have just been a brutal stretch schedule wise. Yes, the Kings have been home more recently, but this is game 10 of 11 in a row where the Kings are playing after travel. So it's just been, one thing after another that are just the adversities that you're facing. And these are hopefully the things that are going to build them and give them some resiliency come playoff time. And so step in there tonight. And I want to see what I saw the first 3 quarters against Chicago. Build on that.
Kayte Christensen joining us. By the way, speaking of issues that aren't explainable with this team, what do you make of and again, these are, I want to acknowledge again, these are impossible questions I'm asking of you. I'm just curious as to your thoughts. What do you make of the fact that this team not only is last in the league in free throws, but they're almost 2 full percentage points behind Toronto at 29, 72.9%. And if there, was something I can't bitch about
mental.
versus the Bulls,
it's 100% mental.
Is it? Okay, it is, because they were great against the Bulls. Let's acknowledge that. I think 17-19, they were wonderful from the line, but I don't understand that.
Like 12 of 12 or something like that. Yeah, it's wild because you look at how many great shooters there are on this team, and you struggle to figure out how they struggle at the free throw line the way that they do. I think it's something that it's compounded during the course of the season. It's become a mental kind of hitch, if you will, or a glitch in their brains, especially when you see guys like Malik, who has traditionally been like, a high 80s, 90s type free throw shooter, somebody that steps up with a ton of confidence. And then, after the win in Minnesota, I mean, literally they could have lost that game so easy in Minnesota because they were horrendous at the free throw line, and they were still able to beat this team on the road in overtime, despite free throws being just they were abysmal. To me, that's mental. And you saw Malik's response after when he was asked about the free throws, and it was utter frustration. But now it's on their mind in such a way that when they step up to the line, it's like, oh my God, I can't miss this. I can't miss this. And to me, it's become this mental thing that has trickled through every single player this season as the season has gone on, as there's been struggles, and now it's become problematic, right? It's like an epidemic on this team at the moment. And honestly, I don't know how they turn it around. It can only come. It's not like go take 200 free throws and it's going to be over. No. It's a mental thing at this point.
And by the way, Jason, just to put everything in perspective, they're dead last at 72.9%. Toronto is next at 74.6%. Last year, the Sacramento Kings shot 78.8% from the line. That is almost a full 6% better. If they were shooting 78.8 now, they'd be just behind Portland for 10th. That's how much it's fallen off this year.
Yeah, well, I mean, I had, our producer, Ro, and the graphic guy, like we put it on the broadcast recently, and I asked them to keep track of makes versus makes this year versus makes last year, so that we can throw it up in games where, yes, they're struggling, and you see that it's impacting the game and their ability to close out, that type of thing. If you look at just the makes from at the same point last year as this year, it is a massive differential for the Kings. And that, to be honest, has impacted wins this season. And that's just, there's no way that you can deny it. It has impacted wins this season.
So, Kayte, tonight you'll fly home. What are you going to do with yourself for about 13, 14 days? You don't have to be on a plane again after tonight.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, don't ask that.
It doesn't get any easier, right? Because it's like, yeah, we get home, but then we have a game the next day. And then at like 9 a.m. on Friday, I'm at an elementary school doing a reading program. It doesn't matter. It's still busy, just without jet lag.
It's funny. And I kind of went through this last week when I was sick, and I don't know if you've done any research on this or looked into it at all, but have you thought about chilling?
Oh, David.
I'm just asking if you've actually looked up and maybe get prescribed a bottle of chill, and then when you have
Literally, as soon as you said that, I wish that you could see me right now. Underneath my right eye is like twitching right now.
What does that even look like for Katie? Yeah, chilling.
I don't know. I've known her pretty well for over a decade, and I think that the chill factor with her is, I need to catch my taxes up, so I can do that with a nice glass of wine in the evening. Like, that's about as close as she gets to chilling.
So he's going to give me a hard time for being a responsible adult. I get it.
No, I'm not saying that. It's just you fill it, like you mentioned, a reading program. Let me ask you this. Is this reading program optional? Or did you sign up for it?
The Kings asked me if I could go, and I said that I would love to.
All right, I'm not going to argue against a reading program. There's no win for me there. Are you going to come home and make your own dog food?
That does have to happen very soon, actually. But yeah, definitely not happening on Friday. That my whole entire day Friday is packed. There is not a minute to spare Friday.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying is that, Jason, she comes home, you'd be like, you got 13, 14 days off. No, not at all. And I don't know what I can tell you this much. I'll bet all the money in mine and your pockets. And we have not discussed this. Katie would throw me under the bus in a heartbeat if we had. I don't know. No, you would if I was lying here is what I'm saying. I don't know.
I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Thank you. I don't know what massive household project she's about to undertake, but I can promise you there is something either inside or outside that house that she's had circled on this calendar that's going down over the next 2-3 weeks. What is it, Katie?
Actually, no. Yeah. Honestly, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I cannot tell you what's happening after Sunday. I know we have a game at like 3 or 3:30 on Sunday. That's as far as I've gotten.
Okay. Well, we'll monitor over the next 2 weeks and report, because it's never too late for you to pick up a household project.
Yes.
Stay tuned for Wednesday to see what moronic thing Katie's decided to do in her house.
Katie will be analyzing tonight's game. Remember, late start, 7:30. Lakers versus Kings. And when she gets back, I know this, Jason, she'll have time to at least sit back, chill, and spend some time with many of her other best friends. So
yeah,
that's
she
good
listed
to know.
many of them. Yeah.
All of them. Yeah. The whole group. Thank you, Katie.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye. It's Kayte Christensen joining us.